So today we have Kevin from Rainforest Pay, Leslie from Jasper, Cass from Vanta, Nancy from PatientFi, Eric from Illumio, and Olivia from Ramp. And I'll give each of them a chance to introduce themselves once we get to their build. So how are things going to work today? Again, really simple. Each person will have 5 minutes to walk through their build. After that, we'll allow about 1 to 2 minutes for Q&A. And then if we have any time at the end, happy to open up a general Q&A, right? Is there something that you want to revisit or something you want to learn maybe about the general habits of the builders that are here today? Anything like that, we'll save until the end. What is a finance engineer? Just as a kind of brief reminder for anyone who's like, I got an email inviting me to this webinar, but I don't really know what a finance engineer is. A finance engineer we think about as someone who is really architecting the systems and data flow for accounting and finance. So this is we think of this both as a person who is present today. We consider everyone who will be showing a build today to be in that camp. But we also think this is a role that will continue to emerge, right? As the systems change, as we learn more about what AI is capable of doing. A few months ago we didn't have MCPs. Now we have MCPs, right? And so that kind of tool set changes as well. We think that the finance engineer is the person who will blend their accounting intelligence, their understanding of when to build versus when to buy, and the like to build kind of these systems for their industries. As a shout out, we just actually released a finance engineer course. So it's 5.5 CPE credits. It's on our site. And yeah, this is something that the Numeric team has been working on for a while. It covers 5 modules, each of which hit on, data and again, build versus buy and controls and the like. And so highly recommend folks take this course. I think my peer David should be dropping a link in the chat soon. Well, without further ado, I want to get into the builds. Kevin, man, how's it going?
Doing good. Yeah.
Tell
Excited
yeah,
to,
can you
to
tell everybody
talk.
where you're from and a quick intro?
Yeah, background at Rainforest Pay. So we facilitate payments for vertical SaaS systems, finance and accounting team of one, and as of more recently, I wear quite a few other hats, but even more the reason to automate as much as possible. As background, I've been in the startup space over the last 3 roles now. So I think I really put an emphasis on how do we find as many efficiencies and automations as much as possible. And honestly, it was really like February of 26, when Claude released the most recent update in that period where I've kind of leaned into it and off the races ever since.
Let's go. Love that, man. Well, all right, the floor is yours. I'll stop sharing, give you a chance to share, and then when you begin, you'll have 5 minutes.
Sounds good. Or yeah, so this is effectively what I've built. I think everybody thinks about accounting and finance, and I'm doing both functions right now. So really what I've tried to do is how do I automate as much of the accounting as possible? So this probably would look familiar to most people. Think of like a closed checklist. We had Google Sheets where I started a few roles back, and we've rolled it forward multiple times. And then I got to a point, let's say, honestly, February of 26, where I said, I think I can automate a lot more. So started to go down the path of not only creating my own checklist that I could reference to other areas, but how do I build this out further? So this is something that I created like test data for today. I'm not going to share any rainforest specific information, but it's generally the same approach to it. So this is a checklist that I built. I can go through kind of a couple examples and then high level, um, did a couple more things to this as I thought through like the closed checklist process. So from my perspective, I really want to automate as much as possible. And in 5 minutes, it's kind of difficult to explain all the other things that I've done to get to this closed checklist per se. But let's just give you the background that I've effectively created this process. Spend 30 seconds looking at it. This is the close control document. It connects to many other things such so that I can come to this closed checklist and click buttons, run processes, and I don't necessarily need to do one-off processes. So the example I started with is sponsor commission. So might be applicable. Let's just say it's a partner and we have a commission related to the work that they do for us. Now, obviously, this is a test, and most things pretty well in a test, so this is pretty easy. But just think about I had this connected to a data layer where it ran the calculation and came up with this export. I have it linked to all the internal folders. Obviously, this isn't linked to what I'm using right now, but it's replicating like actual reports that we would create and such that we could save a reconciliation for the month. You think about a sponsor commission, it's going to take information from a CRM, pull it in, calculate the information. It might be reliant on other contracts, etc., but it can calculate all that from what I've built in kind of this data layer. Um, so that's just one general process that I thought was pretty cool. I was also thinking like, okay, if I can run the calculation here, wouldn't it be helpful if I could have my flows sitting within this closed control document? So I'm calling it. We use QuickBooks right now. I don't know if anybody uses QuickBooks. The MCP with QuickBooks is horrible. So I had to set up an API connection with QuickBooks. Um, so the API connection, I actually built out a journal entry flow that sits within this closed control document. So within QuickBooks, there's no native approval that I know of. So effectively set up this journal entry now that would just post into QuickBooks. So I'm the reviewer in this scenario. Claude's the preparer. I talked to the auditors about that. They didn't love that, but that's where we're at this point. So I would click approve here, and it basically just posts into QuickBooks. So a simple example, like that's the start of what I tried to do with this closed checklist is how do I pick off some of these more mundane tasks that I really don't want to do, but also it's repetitive. As long as you give it the next all the context, all the necessary information, it's quite simple to truly automate the process. And then I was thinking, so I prepared the commission, I prepared the journal entry, I accrued for it. This also requires executive approval. So I created this little integration to Gmail. This doesn't work because it's not connected to my live Gmail. But effectively, what it would do is it create a draft in my Gmail, attach the document that I created, and I could blast it off to whoever needs to approve the specific um, uh, request. So from my perspective, I can literally come to this document, and I think it would be super helpful from like a larger accounting team. You come to one document as opposed to going to multiple different places. If you think about all the other processes that you might needed to otherwise done. Um, so that's like one example, and once again, in 5 minutes, I won't be able to walk through all of it. I did start to think through though, when you get into the close process. There's multiple dependencies, and I think every month in close, you say, okay, I'm expected to do this one first, and this one's going to happen next. And all of a sudden, that goes to hell within like a couple minutes every time you're in the close process. So I put together this page to say, okay, well, this document or this process actually unlocks these others that need to happen. This unlocks the others that need to happen, the dependencies. I think that was pretty helpful for me to be able to see, like, let me jump in and update this. Okay, this is what needs to be done instead of this massive closed checklist that I'm working through. Really, the next step that I went to though is this flow map, and I think this was most useful for me, and I think would be helpful for other teams, maybe even like teaching a staff on a team, or let's say you need somebody in FP&A to help out with the accounting task. You have this flow that's visual, that's super easy to see. And what I like about this is you can tell the dependencies of the next process. And we have up here the biggest bottleneck. So if you follow through it, you can see it gets to these couple of processes, and then these other processes need to be completed as well. So this started from I wanted to change a Google Sheet and create a Google Sheet that I can manipulate and edit things that I thought were more applicable to me. And then I just continued to iterate on it. Transparently, it's gotten to a point now with Claude that I'm having it reference this checklist that I created, which originally was for people to action off of, but I'm just referencing Claude now to take actions based on the day of what happens, and then prompt me with any questions that it might have as to like what needs to happen. Um, so that's the background of what I've built. I don't know if that was less than 5 minutes or more than 5 minutes, but I feel like it's hard to go down a much further of a rabbit hole unless I'm going to spend about an hour.
No, Kevin, we really appreciate it. Um, Gave you a little minute cushion, nothing too crazy. And in following up here, there are some questions that have come into the chat, and two people have wondered. Cameron Glover asked, "This is cool, Kevin. How is this hosted?"
So this is local. It's just a local HTML file that I created. I did find that for sharing with up to 3 people, there's multiple free services out there that you can create one of these HTML files and share it. Like I said, with 3 people. If you want to create it and share with a much broader audience, you typically have to pay for like an actual link. I honestly didn't want it to be public either, so that's why it's local. There are other ways to go about this. I've actually built a golf app off of and have a live website for that as well. So like there's other options that you can do, but this is local.
Super. All right. Well, Kevin, man, we really appreciate you presenting.
Yeah, of course.
All right, all right. Here. And then I will share again. All right. Leslie, it's on to you. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing good. Good to see you.
Good to
Um,
see you.
some of our audience members might remember Leslie being the runner-up in our Finance Engineer Cup. You're here again, showcasing a little bit of what you showed at that time, but with some improvements, right?
Yes. Yeah, I want to dig into kind of like some process improvements that I made when I got into really taking this live to our team. Talking about some like troubleshooting as well as yeah, just showing where it's at today. But we've now been actively using this dashboard on our team for 2 months. Um, so I can go ahead and share and jump into it.
By all means. Here, I'll stop sharing myself. All you, Leslie.
All right. Can you see this?
Yep, you're good to go.
Okay, perfect. So I feel like everyone in the startup space is very familiar with the importance of cash burn, which is where the problem that I was solving started with. You get to day one of close and you wanted to have this reporting available to your team and broader finance teams as quickly as possible ahead of the board prep meetings. So I was pulling down so many reports from NetSuite. You could easily see like what our beginning and ending cash was. Very difficult to figure out the reason why it had changed in enough broad detail to call out those key drivers. So launched Claude in February and really started building with co-work initially. And then after the Finance Engineer Cup, when I was digging into taking this live for year-to-date data, I ran into an issue very quickly where co-work was like, you are at capacity of memory in this chat. So kind of took that moment to reflect. I ended up taking it to ChatGPT and used that as my like solutions architect to help me rewrite my code prompts that I was going to plug back into what I transitioned to Claude Code at this point and help me build this from the ground up. I had given it my dashboard that I had presented at the Finance Engineer Cup to be like, I like this output. I like what this looks like. Let's make this easily repeatable, very automated. And, I think something very top of mind too is just like, how can we audit this? Especially when you get to something robust like this where it has year-to-date data. I mean, I imagine this will be like reiterated on every month and have more than a year of data at some point. So how can we make sure that everything is flowing through and we have good controls over it? So I ended up building out a ton of different files. I didn't have time to like go and create all of that in a demo environment to show, but ultimately I have a lot of Excel files that I can go in and audit to tie out these amounts. It's also referenced here on the audit tab, kind of what the flow through of our data sources. It's doing the monitoring controls. So it's ensuring that everything on these tabs is tying out to our GL, which shout out to Numeric. It's running through Numeric's MCP. So it's tying out directly to our reconciled cash balances there and pulling in supplementary data. So, and then one thing, Nigel, as I called out in our meeting earlier, I had have an Excel file too in this downloads that able to go in and manually edit and it does a track changes. So that can be like tracked in here. It'll pop up under our sources and be like, you changed this tracking. And it'll continue to learn from that month over month. So if I didn't like the classification it wanted for something in the burn here, this is very broad level, but I pretty much have it broken out into like vendor payments or T&E or payroll or commissions. And I can go and easily edit that in the file that the code is referencing. Um, so I can just kind of bounce through here a little bit, but everything is going to be completely drillable as well. So this is going to connect to either Ramp or NetSuite or Numeric with the source record. And this also gives you a level of, certainty over pulling in all of the activity for the month. And if there's any item that was like heavily inflating your cash for the month, you had a series of funding or something of the like, you can exclude that here too, and it'll track at the bottom for anything that's like a one-time item removed. And the exciting part, the Flux tab, this is what I share out with the team and present on monthly. And it has done a fantastic job at filling in the notes automatically based off of the context that it's pulling in from those external connectors. But I also have the ability to like come in here and add additional context or remove as I see fit. Then, of course, on the audit tab, it'll allow you to do a sign off check too, and then have the controller sign off. And to circle back on like, I know the question of like, where is this hosted? It is currently local, and then I share a copy of it in our closed folder. Um, I talked this over with the team. There's really not a reason to have this live hosted at the point, like this point, since it's really locked down at the end of each month. Then I almost like maintaining a level of consistency across not having this go and then like update after month end close so we can see what that point in time was. And if anything changed, then it gives you something to go look at. So, yeah.
Awesome, Leslie. Thank you. I believe in the chat there's a question from Tara Devlin who asked, how do you get your internal audit teams comfortable with these?
Lucky for us, we do not have one. I think that is something that is very top of mind though, with just like any question about that audibility, which is why I've created that folder I was talking about, that it's really nice, like building in code where you have all of the source data easily accessible. I think anyone who spent a lot of time building in cowork or chat easily, like you quickly discover how things just get lost in that. And you're like, wait a second, like, where is my like track changes on this? Like, wait, go back to this iteration. I find that if you're going to be building something complex where you want to be able to track that and have that audit trail, code is been really great for that.
Super. Connor Vanderzalm asks, where does the data live in the build here? Is it in Excel? Is it elsewhere? I think you mentioned a few data sources actually.
Yeah, so initially, I'm having it pull down from our numeric cache reconciliation, and that like gave already a level of certainty over how things are being bucketed for this flux tab here. And then that gives us something to directly tie against, and that's that Excel file too I was referencing. But then I take it one step further because obviously everything that's running through that cache reconciliation file is then going into NetSuite. So I want that source record to not just be listed there, but be able to be clicked into directly, which is where you'll see all of the like detailed links here. And this would take you directly to that record in the live version, whether that be NetSuite or Ramp.
Sweet. And then the final question here, Q&A from Erica Garcia Phillips. This person asked, what tools did you use to prepare the dashboard? So yeah, a little bit of context there would be helpful.
Yeah, and so obviously used ChatGPT to help write the script that then I input into Claude Code, but all of the connectors, we'll see here, it's NetSuite, Numeric. There's a few like one-off bank feeds that we don't have running through Numeric right now because they'll be like for our investment accounts. So those will pull in separately. And then any Excel file that I add as supplementary within that folder that code is referencing, just for any like one-off manual adjustments that I want to add.
Right on, right on. All right. Well, Leslie, thank you so much for presenting.
Thank you.
Super. We're moving along. We're making our way. Cass, you're up. Cass, how you doing? Tell us where you're from and tell us about a little bit about your role.
I'm Cass. I'm located in Texas currently. I actually just got promoted up to the accounting systems analyst here at Vanta. And I've been doing a lot with actual automations within Claude and Google Apps scripts. Let me get this shared. One of the big problems we ended up facing at month-end close was allocating all of our benefits out globally, per head count, per department, and getting those recorded. Because it was a repetitive process with V lookups and X lookups, we always use the head count report, and it just seemed like something that coding could actually fix, so it wasn't just AI backed itself. So I went into Claude Code and started talking with it. And after doing some research trying to land on Google Apps Scripts or Python, I landed on using Google Apps Script for Vanta. So that way we could embed it into our folders and our reporting. So essentially how it works is every day at 1 p.m. Central, the script will run automatically in the background and check the benefits folders for three very specific files. It'll be for a PDF file, a headcount report, and our actual Excel version of our breakdown per employee. Once all three of those files are in there, the allocation will run. If any of those files are missing, the allocation will not run and it will be put off till the next day. When the allocation is ran, what is created is a pivot table that is all formula driven, based on the allocation by person file and their departments. This will actually allow us to pull in and find any unmatched employees, as well as our current months, our retro fees, and our admin fees. Our admin fees were something that we actually wanted to allocate to a different GL. So I have the code that actually will read the PDF file for itself and find this administrative fees line for us and pull in this amount. This is one of the human checks that I put in because of the fact that, AI does make mistakes, scripting does make mistakes. I wanted to make sure there was a human check before anything was written into NetSuite. So once this amount and the total amounts are verified, the next human check that I put in is for this unmatched. Now, a headcount report and names can only get you so far. You have instances where names differ, like Chris and Christopher or Matt and Matthew. So that will break any lookups that we have. But if we have just these very few unmatched that we need to name, we can do that. And what I've built into this automation is being able to memorize those employee headcount numbers and these departments. So what will happen is in the future, this person will no longer populate as unmatched. They will populate under their department, which in this example would be product marketing. The other build in check that I do have as well is this historical match. What will happen is when I first set up this automation and I fed into Claude the people that we were having to manually look up and had it flag as a historical match. This allowed me to go in and manually enter people's headcount number and have the Google Apps Script save those people's headcount numbers along with their department and names. So in the future, they won't populate as a historical match. They'll populate as a headcount match, and that will capture any department changes that somebody may have. So for this person, they may switch from software engineering to accounting, and that will actually get flagged for me to allow me to double check and make sure that that was an expected department switch for those individuals. Once all of those are saved and everything, you can rerun the NetSuite upload and coefficient sync sheets. This will eliminate the unmatched items from the pivot table itself. as well as give you the uploads that you can manually enter into NetSuite this way, or you can use a coefficient sync to directly export it to NetSuite. Lastly, I built in a little check here to make sure your debits and credits balance without you needing to do any kind of summing yourself for these things. This has saved us a lot of time at month end close with just getting our allocations in.
Amazing. Cass, I see why you got that promo. Great work.
Thank you.
I actually have a question off the bat. You know, a number of our presenters are showing things using Claude or ChatGPT, but you've chosen to use Google Apps Script. Curious maybe what some of the rationale behind doing so.
So for me, AI will AI can mess up just by you switching from starting a new chat with it, starting a new conversation at all. It doesn't always pull from the memory correctly. Because of that, I wanted something that was more hard-coded and better automated, something that was easier to pass off to the next person potentially. The way that the script is written, if we have a profile that's not just under my Vanta email, for instance, but we had, say, an accounting at or finance at alias that I could log into, I can host all of these scripts in that one profile. And so if I ever leave, those scripts do not fail. They will not break. Whereas with the Claude codes, Claude skills, those various things, it's a little harder to export and make sure that they are being handled the same way every single time.
Amazing. It seems like you have there's some colleagues here in the chat who are like, yeah, they're big fans of Google Apps Script as well. So that's good to see as well. Yeah, if there are any other questions in the chat, we'll take a second to answer those if folks are curious about something that Cass presented. Otherwise, we will keep making our way. All right. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll have I think we'll end up having a little bit of time for Q&A at the end as well. So for that reason, if folks think of something later on, we'll have a chance to talk about them. We're at the intermission point, at the halfway point here. We still have 3 more presenters to go. Thank you to Kevin, Cass, and Leslie for your presentations. You got us off to a great start. Next up, we'll have Eric. So let me present. Eric, how's it going? Tell us, tell us a little bit about, where you're based, where you work, and what you're going to be showing today.
Yeah, going good. Thanks for having me. I actually thought I was next after this, so now I'm put on the spot.
Actually, sorry, Eric, that's my
Let's
mistake.
go with Nancy.
Yes. So, Nancy, how's it going? Little Steve Harvey error of mine right there. So Nancy, how's it going? Tell me where you're based and what are you going to be showing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm going to give Erica a little bit more time to prep there. Yeah, I'm out of Portland. It's beautiful here right now, so no complaints. I'm the controller here at PatientFi. We're a Series B fintech that helps patients finance elective procedures such as fertility treatments. On the accounting side, flux-commentary is one of the most time-consuming parts of our monthly close. So today I'm going to show you a tool that I built to help speed that up.
Phenomenal. All right. I'll let you share your screen.
Share my screen. Make sure I grab the right desktop. Okay. Like everyone can see my screen. You should be looking at a Claude Cowork artifact. This is built in Claude and connected to Numeric's MCP. It pulls live report data, transaction detail, and in any existing explanation straight from Numeric. We're big Numeric fans, so we rely heavily on it for the checklist and our flux commentary. From here, we can draft, review, post commentary faster by using Claude to draft comments in bulk, which is really key. So I can have Claude draft a bunch of comments and background while I keep working through the rest of the close. So yeah, I have this hooked up to Numeric's demo environment. At the top, we can quickly see everything that's flagged for this period, what's been prepared, what's still pending, what's complete. Over here, we can see what's been drafted. If we want to just filter by yourself, assigned to me. See, I have 7 assigned to myself, and I have 4 drafted comments already. We can also filter and sort by lines. If you wanted to sort by line or variance per dollar or percentage, that's all there. If you wanted to see all the comments that aren't under your threshold, you can go ahead and turn those on and see all the ones that aren't flagged. I already have it filtered, but if you wanted to filter, you could filter on specific members of your team here and against the statuses here. So lots of filtering in there. So I've already generated most of these drafts ahead of time since it takes a minute for Claude to run through them. But I'd walk you how I could do it here. So if I had a bunch of comments that I wanted to draft, you can draft them one at a time right here. You could just hit generate AI draft for selected, or you can actually, what I like to do is I select them all, I generate the drafts in bulk, and then after it's done drafting, I'll review them and then I'll post them to Numeric. Yeah, so here we could also see filtered down manual. This is the one that I've written manually versus the one that's drafted by AI. The AI commentary here is driven by our AI drafting logic. So anything that it's drafting is given instructions right here and it's editable. So if I want to make any changes to the drafting logic, you can go in here. It's not hidden inside of code. We don't have to go back and rebuild this. You could just build it, reconfigure it in the settings menu here. So for here, for example, we have some thresholds here. Don't give flux commentary for line items under 1,000 and 10% of the variance. We'll do some grouping by vendors or by department here. So some flux commentary for example, like office expense, software expense, we'll want it grouped by department and then by vendor. So you can specify here, also show the top 5 vendors for that flux commentary. So anything that you want to train the flux on is written here. So for example, for this one, if you expand it, you can see this one was written by the AI. It's grouped by department as it was defined. Also by the vendor, it's got the flux commentary here. If it had a prior month comment, it also pulls it in here for comparison's sake. And then if you click in here, it's all driven by Numeric's data. It also give me a really nice pivot comparing the vendors, current month versus prior month. And then if you wanted to post your comments, once you're done reviewing them, you can select them all. You can hit post selected to Numeric. Take a second, it's already posted. If we go back to the demo environment, refresh it, you could see right here, these are the ones that have been just posted right here, right there. So I could see AI explanation preview, and then my team can go in, review that still looks good, make any changes as necessary, and then hit submit. So it saves us a ton of time because the AI has already produced the drafts in bulk. So the team's just reviewing it and making changes as opposed to going line by line and producing all these comments. Only other thing I'd like to show here is we have a settings here. The thresholds for flagging are driven by Numeric's thresholds, but if you wanted to override it for some reason, you can do user defined thresholds here and redefine that. Yeah, so yeah, this saves our team a ton of time. It's cut our flux commentary down in half. But yeah, the goal is to easily sync data from Numeric, let AI do the first pass with our house rules, and then a human still reviews and posts every comment. So it's faster without giving up any of that control before it gets posted to Numeric.
Awesome, Nancy. Thank you so much. We have a few comments here. I think people are trying to understand your rationale for doing the flux here as opposed to running the fluxes in Numeric itself. So I'll actually start from the bottom here, the most recent question, which is Connor asked, does Numeric not have AI flux or was it not good enough? So I'm curious what you have to say there.
Right. Numeric does have AI flux. It does not allow you to post in bulk. Additionally, some of the templates we found we weren't able to customize as well as we could do in Claude code. So that's why we decided to build something in Claude.
Awesome. And then CJ asked, what drove this versus using Numeric and the Numeric MCP directly? You mentioned actually that you are using the Numeric MCP directly. So
it is. Yeah, this is, so we're using, our stack is Claude and Numeric and NetSuite. So we are using the Numeric MCP inside of Claude. So this is a Claude artifact.
Awesome. Mayank asked, how long did it take to connect with your ERP system and fully live in production, which an internal auditor or an external auditor could rely on?
So we use the enterprise version of Claude. So that's how our IT team has confidence that the data is protected. It doesn't take very long. I think the MCP for Numeric takes 15, 30 minutes to hook up. For NetSuite, it takes a little bit more time because you have to be an administrator and set up the role. So that probably takes like an hour or two, depending on how fluent you are in NetSuite.
Superb. And then Chris asked, was this built in Claude Code?
It was not. It was built in Claude Cowork.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, Nancy, thank you very much. Eric, I messed up a minute ago. Now it's your time to shine.
All right.
You're out.
Well, hey everyone. My name is Eric. I'm the Senior Director of Accounting at Illumio. We are the breach containment company. So I'm using my Claude tokens to build little accounting tools. But if you're worried about other people using theirs to hack into your network, you should be worried about that. You should give us a call. But like I said, little accounting tools. So we operate in a lot of countries outside the US. We use a third-party firm to do our accounting services. I'm responsible for managing spend, approving the invoices, and back in the day, invoices would come through to me for approval. I'd pull up the prior month invoice. I'd compare the two. I'd see what changes. It was super time consuming. It still left me without like a holistic view of spend that I would need when it's time to go to vendor negotiation, when it's time to plan for AOP. So a couple of years ago, I started having a team member just manually copy every invoice line into an Excel workbook, have them like label the country, the service type, the currency, how often it was recurring. And every month they would send me this workbook and I would feel a little bad that I had saddled them with this, really manual, crappy task. So I've been thinking through, how could I make this better for a while. The main thing that I review in the workbook is basically a pivot table that more or less would look like this. It's showing me by country, the spend, by type, by recurrence. Makes it really easy to see if we're getting double billed for something that should be on an annual cadence, if there's ad hoc work that I need to click into and remember if I authorized it or not. If the month-over-month amount changes, I can click in, I can see what happened. And it's been helpful. Like we've had billing issues that we've caught and we've gotten, thousands of dollars back because I'm able to do a real review of the invoice and not just, assuming it looks reasonable. So, also AP is also processing the invoice, but they're doing it for a different purpose. They're capturing different data. Just something I'm mindful of. Like we have a handful of processes like this where there's two humans who are both manually working with the same data, and it's because neither process produces the information that the other process needs. So, like I said, I wanted to remove this manual touch for a while. Now I still haven't 100%. 20 days ago, Nigel asked if I had something to present, and I pretended that I did, but I didn't. So this is still very much a demo, but here's where we're at. So this invoice that I had up hasn't been uploaded into the system yet. It's going to be the data that's probably down here for Poland. I can go over to this documents. I'm on a Mac and I'm not on a mouse, so there's two cardinal sins right now. But I can drag this in. It uploads. It is routed to Azure Document Intelligence for traditional OCR, and it's also routed to a low-cost vision model to extract the invoice term. So I can click in. Both have read it, so it'll tell me where it read something different, where it agrees or disagrees. I just assumed that the Azure solution would be really good. It's not, but that's cool because I got two people looking at it. I can kind of hover over terms and see where it's coming from the source document. And meanwhile, in the background, there's a rule-based engine that's labeling each invoice line the way I want it by type and cadence and so on. So this invoice that I just uploaded, now it is part of the historical population. It filled out some of these blanks. If I'm wondering what this ad hoc work was, I can click in and drill down and see it in this bottom pane. That's how I review when I'm doing this for real. It's not quite as nifty as Numeric, but it is getting the job done. So that's kind of it. Like I'm just, still thinking through the implications of stuff like this, as I'm sure a lot of people are. I think there's a lot of advice out there that says, you shouldn't try to automate tasks. You need to think about your workflows end to end and redesign there. And I would love to do that, but I feel like the reality is we're still kind of all getting used to what is possible, and that reality is shifting under our feet every day. So for me, like just trying to automate this task over the last few weeks was one way to kind of discover the workflow that could be redesigned. Um, at night, I'd spend like an hour explaining to Claude what I wanted to build while I sleep. And all I was trying to do was save someone a couple hours a month of manually copying over this invoice data. But there's actually a lot going on under the hood, and I feel like I have pretty reliable invoice extraction. I have structured data that's living in a database. Things are getting labeled. There's opportunity for human to review. So it also kind of feels like I have a lot of the building blocks to process the invoice itself, and also a lot of building blocks that aren't like invoice specific. So like ingesting data and extracting terms and classifying, reconciling, reviewing. Like I have a really ops heavy role, and this is more than half of what my team does on a day-to-day basis. And it's also stuff that I feel like AI can do really well, especially as you hand over more tools that it can call in the form of, code, like to be able to do certain tasks like this. So that's kind of it. I'm still trying to figure out like the economics of this and how this all makes sense. Like I don't know if 3 weeks of my time to get this demo shaped made sense. A frustrating amount of time was just fighting with Claude to create this synthetic data and to create this kind of janky UI. So I feel like it was maybe too expensive for this small task, but it also really, really feels like I'm accumulating these reusable blocks that make the next one cheaper to solve. And then for me specifically, like I have this exact same fact pattern with two other vendors. We get 50 to 100 invoices a month for contractors, EORs. The only way I want to review those is by looking at trends. I also want to accumulate the data for analysis and spend management. So I have some good use cases for this. I don't think it would make sense to kind of roll your own like AP automation system, and I would rather buy Ramp from Olivia, who is talking next. But it's still really solving like an Illumio shaped problem, and I think would be hard to find in a system of record. So that is it, and sounds like a good place to stop.
All right, all right. Eric, really appreciate you showing this off, and I think it's a lovely UI personally. So, um, just my 2 cents. But a few questions here in the chat. First, from Nancy, your fellow panelist. Actually, she asked if you can explain the OCR technology backend in more detail.
Yeah, so this was built to, in theory, be hosted on Azure because we are a Microsoft shop. Azure, Microsoft has something called Azure Document Intelligence that has pre-built OCR for invoices and a variety of other things. So it's like, I don't even know. It's like a fraction of a cent per page. It is effectively free to do that. And then on the LLM side, it's really just, I don't know what's going on. I can't read or write code, right? But I told it, I want you to pass the invoice to an LLM, and I want you to get structured data back that has, it's extracting these terms. So those are the two paths. I think the LLM is better, and I think if I was passing it to a better model, I think it would get pretty close to 100% accuracy. Like it's really, really good at, looking at images and grabbing data from it.
Awesome. Let's see if there are any other questions here. Doesn't seem so. But Eric, thank you very much for showcasing this. Really appreciate it. And you left us with a great segue talking about Ramp because our final presenter, Olivia, is from, well, the vendor known as Ramp. Olivia, good to see you.
Hi, good to see you as well. Hope you guys can all hear me. But hello everyone. I am Olivia. I work at Ramp. I work on a suite of our AI tools. So our MCP and CLI, which is what powers something like Claude or Claude Cowork, and as well as some of our new product suites, as well as like Router, token spend management. But today I'm going to demonstrate some of the cool stuff that we've been shipping. So we've been really focused on trying to basically have parity between the product that you experience when you're on the Ramp app versus when you're actually in a different surface area like Claude Code, Claude, or ChatGPT. So I'd like to show some of my favorite ones that we've recently shipped. I'm going to share my terminal. If someone can give me a thumbs up when they can see this, all looks well. All right. Right now, this is my terminal. It's connected to two things, Claude Code, because it just makes everything easier, and secondary, the Ramp CLI. So without getting into specifics for everyone on this call, CLI, MCP are just acronyms for different protocols of basically like how you're connecting data to these different tools. And essentially, like CLI and MCP are almost virtually the same. The only difference is you actually can upload files through the CLI, whereas something like the MCP is a limitation on the protocol side. But from a high level, I would think about them as the same thing. They're both like I'm on an AI agent and I need to plug into data. But anyways, right now what you're seeing is plugged into the Ramp CLI. So we have a bunch of different like suite of tools and skills available. To start, I'm just going to show you like our most common use case is kind of like the top of the mind, very similar to the other presentations where you want to go in and just basically figure out like what is top of mind and what should be prioritized. So basically, I'm going to say like, what should I focus on for accounting tests today? You're going to see that's going to be a similar answer to above, but basically it's going to say there's like X amount of transactions that need review, as well as actually asking for some like clarification on the agents that Ramp has to qualify accounting. Let's dig into just like what is looking at these transactions, saying like, do any of these transactions need coding? So something our team shipped was actually the ability to update transactions in Ramp with accounting codings. So think about going in and just like making sure that there's like codings assigned to each transaction from a hygiene perspective. Additionally, it will also, we recently shipped support for splitting transactions, as well as basically marking things ready to sync, which will allow you to basically like opt in. My team has been very specific in sensitive actions. So actually like syncing something fully to another accounting system is something we've not yet released, because we thought it would probably give people more cause for concern than relief from doing that. So right now, basically what you can do is go in, clean up, and make sure that's like basically ready to sync. So right now we can see it's saying actually everything's already assigned. There's one that we actually, it's flagging, like we're going to need browser handoff to clear from different accounting review ones. I'm just going to skip that and dive into another use case I wanted to show, which is one of my personal favorites as someone who has to book work trips, but we have actually built support for booking trips from all the way for booking flights as well as booking hotels. So Ramp has our conference coming up in September. It's in San Francisco. So I'm going to say I need help booking my flights and hotels for on Ramp. And basically anyone who's ever like gone through work travel or booking travel in general knows it's a lot of screens and a lot of tedious mechanisms. So I have actually used this in real life to book my trips, and it saved me so much time for any type of work related travel. So basically we're gonna say I'm flying from Newark. We can just do coach class and those dates work. So what it's going to do right now, it uses basically like it's able to grab all available flights and show us the options, and then will prompt me to confirm like what looks best. And similarly, it does the same with hotels. We're actually making a bunch of improvements this week as well to for a more admin level use case. So like right now, everything is scoped for a user. So like me, Olivia, I'm booking a flight. I need to help that, but for example, like what we're going to change is for someone who's like an admin of an org who has access to all booking data across the org, we're going to actually allow you to like grab and aggregate that data and add some more controls around that, which was requested by like another power user who's building a really cool case. So basically, we're like focused on kind of expanding the next suite of like every single tool that we have available. How do we make it even more robust? So you can see right now on my screen, it's going through, it's actually querying all of these dates, and it will show you basically both like hotels and flights available, and essentially like help us put this entire itinerary together. Um, it's also able to look at ramp. Obviously the policy is all already in there. We want to make sure everything's in policy. So we have limits on hotels, limits on flights. You can see it's like only grabbing the ones that are in policy. So you can see here that basically these are the available options. Again, this is a test account, so I'm actually going to go through and book this, but we'll be putting in a request and canceling it after. It's a little late, so I unfortunately am only getting two flights that both are not nonstop, but we can go ahead and book these. It's also giving me some recommendations. I'm not SF based. I'm based out of New York, so I would probably trust this over anything I know. But let's say I want to do this flight, so it looks like flight option 1 and then like hotel option 4. But I have used this tool in real life to practice like last minute flight booking and sorry, I'm talking while typing, and hotel 4. But it's honestly saved my sanity having all of this available. And at least my team, we think like for a lot of tasks, this is the future. So our mission is basically to make sure that whatever users are trying to do within these other surfaces that aren't actually the Ramp app, have support to do so. So if anyone has here like used the Ramp MCP or CLI, either through ChatGPT, Claude, or a different type of surface, I would love to hear, what you're trying to do and what you can't do currently, since it is basically our biggest priority right now. You can see that now it's giving me my return flights. I'm going to do one so I can get home at a reasonable hour. And then once this all goes through, we'll actually be able to confirm in Ramp itself that this went through.
Olivia, as you're going through, there's some questions in the chat.
Yes.
Trevor asked, who is the target user for this kind of working in the CLI?
So working the CLI is a great question. I would say it's like, from what I've seen, again, like MCP and CLI, you can kind of think about in the same vein, but honestly, the pattern that I have observed is it really depends on what surface area people are interacting with this from. Like more and more of the world is using Claude Code. But still today, like people who are Claude Code power users tend to be a bit more technical, and a bit more like engineering focused, whereas someone who's like a power user of something on the MCP is actually more likely like the Ramp MCP power users are all in Finance Suite, and it's a bit less technical of like from a role description point. So I'd say like for CLI, like right now, I think like everyone at Ramp uses Claude Code. So it really depends on like what orgs are using in terms of tooling. But I would say like I think the CLI, like the use case I'm demonstrating here, I would say is like more likely for an employee persona. So someone who's booking a work trip, somebody who's cleaning up expenses, somebody who already is operating out of the terminal day over day, which I myself personally am. Whereas I think like the MCP is beneficial because it can plug into existing tools. So for the other examples that were built using something like Claude Cowork, people are already building on top of Claude. So I think like that's the pattern we're emerging where we're seeing more finance professionals like stay with ChatGPT, stay with Claude versus the uh more technical personas are like already working at a terminal using the CLI.
Super. Awesome. Um, I know we're coming up on time. And so I want to make sure that we have a chance for some more general questions in the chat. I see that actually Gaurav has a question for you, Olivia. He's curious to know how does the context for the policy is built internally? What happens when that information gets updated? I imagine his question is around, if I have context for the policy and I update that information, does it in turn affect what's happening with the Ramp MCP or the Ramp
Yes.
MCP or the CLI? Yeah.
Yeah, so basically like what it's looking at in terms of um the policy around spend. will actually like this should be real time. It's like in real time querying this. So it will be live for any updates. But let me know if that's the policy that's in question here, and if I'm understanding that correctly.
Super. Well, Olivia, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Well, I want to say thank you to all of our presenters for showcasing today the things they've been working on. It seems like you guys are exploring across surfaces, right? You're using Terminal, you're using Google Apps Script, you're using Claude Code, Claude Cowork. I think we actually saw almost the gamut today. I don't think anyone built in Gemini or Perplexity, but those two aside, I think we saw almost everything. To anyone who's attended, we will be sharing out this recording after the fact. And so be on the lookout for this. You're more than welcome to share this with your teams and the like. But yeah, we're super excited for what's to continue with how people are building with AI. I'm sure we're going to have one more, one if not multiple more of these. And yeah, thank you everyone for attending, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Take care, all.